Ella had been settling in for the night, holding a warm cup of chamomile tea between her hands, when she heard it. The kind of knock that did not ask for attention but begged for it. She froze for a moment, wondering who would come by so late. The house was always still at this hour, the kind of peaceful stillness that made the world feel far away. But then came another knock. Softer. Almost frightened. Ella set her mug down, walked to the front door, and opened it gently. Standing there was her nephew, Liam. His cheeks were streaked with tears. His shoulders trembling. And his eyes, those normally bright, thoughtful eyes, looked lost. He was only 16, but in that moment he looked much younger, as if the weight on his chest had pulled years off his spirit. "Liam," Ella whispered, stepping aside and pulling him in before the cold night air swallowed him. "What happened, sweetheart?" He shook his head, unable to answer. He clung to her like he had run miles just to reach her door. Ella wrapped her arms around him slowly, careful not to overwhelm him. His breath came in sharp, uneven bursts against her shoulder. "It's okay," she murmured. "You're safe here. Take your time." When he finally pulled back, he wiped at his eyes with the sleeve of his hoodie. His voice was barely more than a whisper. "Aunt Ella. I didn't know where else to go." Those words pierced through her like a blade of cold wind. Liam was a quiet boy, but he had always been steady. Sensitive, yes. Thoughtful, absolutely. But lost. Never like this. "Come sit," Ella said softly, guiding him to the living room. He sank into the couch, curling into himself as though trying to disappear. Ella sat across from him, giving him space but staying close enough to reassure him. She didn't push. Didn't question. Didn't force him to speak before he was ready. That was something she had learned long ago. Sometimes silence is safer than words. After a few moments, she brought him a glass of water. His hands trembled as he took it. "Did something happen at home?" she finally asked in a gentle tone. Liam hesitated. His eyes darted toward the window, as though searching for something outside that he could not find inside himself. "I had an argument with Dad," he whispered. His throat tightened around the words. Ella felt tension gather in her chest. Her brother, Daniel, was a good man, but he had a sharp way of speaking when he was overwhelmed. He didn't always realize how deeply his words could cut. "What kind of argument?" she asked. Liam bowed his head. "It wasn't supposed to get that bad. I was just trying to tell him how I felt. That's all." Ella nodded slowly. "And he didn't hear you?" "He never hears me," Liam said, voice breaking. "Tonight he just snapped. And when he did, I felt like I couldn't breathe anymore." The pain behind those words settled heavy between them. Ella reached out, placing her hand gently on his. "I'm so sorry, Liam." He took a shaky breath and whispered, "I didn't come here to make trouble. I needed someone who wouldn't yell. Someone who actually listens." Ella's heart tightened. Because she knew exactly what that felt like, growing up unheard. She had spent years learning how to lift her voice again. "And you were right to come," she said softly. "You did nothing wrong by being honest about your feelings." He looked up at her with tears swelling again. "Do you mean that?" "I do," she said. "And whatever happened tonight, we'll figure it out together." For the first time since he arrived, Liam exhaled a slow, shaky breath, as though releasing something he had been holding for too long. Ella offered him a soft blanket, and he wrapped it around himself. He looked small, fragile, and exhausted. "Do you want to tell me what he said?" she asked, keeping her voice steady and warm. Liam hesitated again. His fingers tightened around the edge of the blanket. And then, he whispered something so quiet it barely made it through the air between them. "He said I disappointed him." Ella felt her chest sink. She knew Daniel didn't mean it the way it sounded, but for a boy like Liam, words like that could open wounds too deep to ignore. She blinked slowly, making sure her voice stayed calm. "Oh, sweetheart, that must have hurt so much." Liam nodded, his eyes glistening. Before Ella could respond, he whispered something else, quiet, trembling, and carrying a heaviness she had not expected. "Aunt Ella, there's something I didn't tell him. Something I can't tell him. And it's tearing me apart." Ella leaned forward gently, her heart tightening as she waited for him to continue. And Liam finally whispered, "Aunt Ella, I'm scared he'll never look at me the same way again." Ella froze. Because the fear in his voice wasn't about the argument anymore. It was about something deeper. Something he had been carrying alone. And she realized this night was about to reveal far more than she expected. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Ella took a slow breath, steadying her voice as she softly asked, "Liam, what is it that you're afraid to tell him?" His answer would change everything. Liam didn't speak right away. He stared down at his hands, twisting the edge of the blanket like he was trying to keep himself from falling apart. Ella kept her voice soft. "Take your time. I'm right here." The room felt heavier with every quiet second. Only the faint hum of the heater filled the space. Finally, Liam drew a shaky breath. "Aunt Ella, I didn't tell Dad the whole truth." His voice cracked gently. "I couldn't." Ella nodded slowly. "What truth, sweetheart?" He swallowed hard. "It's about school." Ella's chest tightened. "School? Did something happen? Are you in trouble?" Liam shook his head quickly. "No. Not trouble. Just. I didn't tell him why I haven't been myself lately. Why my grades dropped. Why I've been avoiding everyone." His eyes lifted toward hers, shimmering with uncertainty. "There's this project we had to present," he whispered. And I froze. Completely. I couldn't breathe in front of the class. Everyone stared at me, waiting for me to talk, and nothing came out. Ella's expression softened. "Oh, Liam. It wasn't just embarrassment," he continued. "It felt like the walls were closing in. Like something inside me broke. And ever since then, I get scared even thinking about school." Ella leaned a little closer. "Have you felt like this before?" He hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Yeah. For a while. I just never told anyone because I didn't want to worry Dad. He already has enough on his plate." Ella felt her heart twist. Liam had always been the quiet, responsible type. The one who tried to keep peace even when it hurt him. And tonight, she said gently, "You tried to finally tell him how overwhelmed you felt." Liam nodded again. And instead of listening, he got upset. Liam squeezed his eyes shut. He said I needed to toughen up. That everyone gets nervous. That I have to stop acting dramatic. Ella sighed softly. She knew Daniel loved his son deeply, but he sometimes masked concern with frustration. Not realizing how sharp his words could sound. "And that's when you left?" she asked. Liam looked down at his hands. "I didn't run away. I just walked outside to get air. And then I just kept walking. And walking. Until I ended up here." Ella reached out, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "I'm glad you came to me," she whispered. For a moment, Liam didn't respond. He just breathed slowly, as though her reassurance was the first solid thing he'd felt in hours. Then, almost too softly, he added, "There's more." Ella's breath caught, but she stayed calm. "What else, sweetheart?" Liam pressed his lips together, tears rising again. "Aunt Ella. I didn't just freeze during the presentation. That day something happened that I've been carrying alone." He lifted his eyes to hers. "Someone recorded it." Ella's stomach tightened. "And they posted it," he whispered. "And now everyone at school keeps replaying it. They laugh whenever I walk by. They whisper even when they think I can't hear." Ella's eyes softened with pain for him. "Oh, Liam. I'm so sorry. It feels like everyone sees me as some joke," he said, his voice trembling. "And Dad thinks I'm just being sensitive." She wanted to reach out and hold him again, but she let him finish. "I didn't want him to think I couldn't handle things. I didn't want him to think I was weak." Ella shook her head gently. "You are not weak. Not even close." Liam wiped at his eyes with the back of his hand. "But that's not even the worst part," he whispered. Ella felt a nervous flutter in her chest. "What do you mean?" He hesitated long enough that she could feel the fear behind his silence. And then he said something that made her entire body still. "Aunt Ella, one of the boys who keeps sharing the video, he used to be my friend." Ella's lips parted in surprise. Your friend. Liam nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks now. He promised he wouldn't share it. He said he had my back. And then the next day, the whole school had seen it. Ella placed her hand gently over his. That must have felt like such a deep betrayal. It did, Liam whispered. And now? I don't trust anyone. Not even myself. Ella exhaled slowly, steadying her voice. You're not alone anymore, Liam. We're going to get through this. But even as she spoke those words, she sensed there was still something else inside him. Something deeper. Something he was afraid to speak aloud. And she was right. Because a moment later, Liam whispered. Aunt Ella, there's one more thing I haven't told anyone. Ella's heart tightened. What is it, sweetheart? Liam looked up with eyes full of fear and hope all at once. And the words he was about to say would change the shape of their night completely. He held the blanket tightly around himself, his fingers curling into the fabric like he was bracing for impact. Ella stayed quiet, patient, letting him find the courage he needed. When he finally spoke, his voice barely rose above a whisper. Aunt Ella, I'm not just scared of school. I'm scared of myself. Ella felt a soft ache move through her chest. What do you mean, sweetheart? She asked gently. Liam's breathing trembled, as if the truth was sitting just behind his ribs, pushing to be let out. I try so hard to be okay, he said softly. I try to pretend I'm fine so I don't worry anyone. But every day, it feels like something is pulling me down. Like I'm sinking, even when I'm smiling. Ella leaned in just a little. Not to pressure him, just to let him know she was right there. Do you feel that way often? She asked. He nodded slowly. Almost every day for months, he whispered. I didn't want anyone to know. And the more I hid it, the heavier it got. Ella's heart tightened to hear the quiet weight in his words. Liam wiped his eyes again, looking almost guilty. I didn't want to be a burden. Ella shook her head slowly, her voice gentle but steady. You could never be a burden. Not to me. Not to anyone who truly cares about you. He looked down again, his shoulders curling inward. But Dad doesn't understand. He thinks I'm just being dramatic or emotional. He tells me I should be stronger. Ella sighed. Daniel loved his son, but he grew up in a home where nobody talked about feelings, where vulnerability was mistaken for weakness. He didn't know how to navigate emotions, even when they came from someone he loved most. Your dad doesn't know what you're carrying, she said softly. But that doesn't mean your feelings aren't real. Liam swallowed, his voice trembling again. There's more, Aunt Ella. Something bigger. Something I've been scared to admit, even to myself. Ella kept her expression soft. You can tell me anything, she whispered. I promise you're safe here. Liam took a long, shaky breath. It's about why the video hurt so much, he said quietly. Not just because I froze, but because now everyone knows something I've tried to hide. Ella felt her pulse slow with concern. What do they think they know? Liam looked at the floor, ashamed. They think I'm strange, he whispered. Like I don't fit in. Like I'm different in a way they don't understand. Ella shook her head gently. Being different isn't wrong. But they make it feel wrong, he said. They say I'm too quiet. Too sensitive. Too emotional. They laugh because I care too much. Because I get overwhelmed. Because I don't act tough like everyone else. His voice cracked. They call me names when they think I can't hear them. Ella felt anger rise in her chest, not the kind that lashes out, but the kind that grows from wanting to protect someone hurting. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered, I'm so sorry. No one deserves that. Liam blinked through tears. I kept thinking maybe if I acted different, if I was louder, or meaner, or colder, they would stop. Ella leaned forward a bit more. But that wouldn't be you. He nodded slowly. I know. And that's the problem. Ella tilted her head gently. What do you mean? Liam finally lifted his eyes, letting her see the fear he had been hiding. What if who I am isn't good enough for anyone? He whispered. Ella felt her chest ache at the rawness of it. Liam, she said softly, look at me. He hesitated, then raised his eyes. There is nothing wrong with being gentle, or sensitive, or quiet. Those are strengths, not flaws. The people who mock you, they do it because they don't understand you. Not because something is wrong with you. Liam's breath wavered. But what if Dad sees it the same way they do? Ella paused. Because that, she knew, was the root of the fear. Not the students. Not the video. Not the embarrassment. Fear of disappointing his father. Fear of not being enough. Fear of losing love. Your dad loves you more than anything, Ella said. He may not always show it the right way, but he would never want you to hide who you are. Liam's lips trembled. But what if he doesn't accept it? What if he thinks I'm weak? Ella squeezed his hand gently. He won't. And I'll help him understand, if you want me to. Liam's face softened, just a little. He exhaled shakily, letting that reassurance sink in. Then, almost too quiet to hear, he whispered. Aunt Ella, there's one more truth I haven't told anyone. Not even you. Ella's breath caught. There's something about me that I think makes everything harder, he added. And I'm scared to say it. She kept her voice calm. Whatever it is, sweetheart, I will listen. And I won't judge. You are safe with me. Liam took one more trembling breath. Then he opened his mouth. And the secret he had never spoken aloud finally began to rise to the surface. He took a long, trembling breath. The kind someone takes when they've run out of places to hide. Aunt Ella. His voice was barely a whisper. There's something about me I've been scared to admit. Something I've been holding inside for so long it feels like it's crushing me. Ella kept her posture relaxed, her expression warm and open. Whatever it is, sweetheart, you can tell me. Liam closed his eyes for a moment, gathering what little courage he had left. When people call me sensitive, they don't mean it kindly, he said. But the thing is, they're not wrong. I am sensitive. I feel things deeper than other kids. I get overwhelmed fast. I care too much, even when I don't want to. Ella nodded gently. There was no judgment in her eyes. Only understanding. That's not a flaw, she whispered. It's part of who you are. But Liam shook his head quickly. You don't get it. At school, that makes you a target. And at home, Dad thinks sensitivity is something you can just turn off. Ella exhaled softly. I know your father. He doesn't mean harm. He just grew up thinking emotions should be tucked away, not talked about. Liam stared at the blanket draped over his knees. I wasn't just embarrassed during the presentation, he continued quietly. I had a panic attack. And no one knew what to do. The teacher tried to calm me, but the class just kept staring. Some of them started laughing. Someone recorded me without me noticing. Ella felt a deep, aching sadness settle inside her. It must have been terrifying, she whispered. It was, Liam said. And when Dad saw my grades dropping, he thought I was slacking. But the truth is, every time I try to work, I feel this pressure in my chest. Like I'm failing before I even start. Ella leaned forward. That pressure doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're overwhelmed. And you deserve support, not shame. Liam blinked, tears sliding down his cheeks again. But that's not even the hardest part, he whispered. There's something I haven't told anyone. Not even my best friend. Not even myself, until recently. Ella's voice stayed steady. You're brave for even trying to say it. Liam exhaled shakily. What if the reason I'm different, he whispered, isn't just about stress or the video or anything that happened at school? Ella tilted her head slightly. What do you mean, Liam? He hesitated again, long enough that Ella could sense the fear swirling behind the words he was trying to say. Finally, he whispered. I think my heart works differently than other kids. I care deeply. I feel too much. I notice things others don't. And sometimes, it makes me feel like I don't belong anywhere. Ella softened her voice to a near whisper. Being different doesn't mean you don't belong. It means you see the world in a way others can't. But what if Dad can't understand someone like me? Liam asked, his voice breaking. Ella gave his hand a gentle squeeze. We'll help him understand. You don't have to do that alone. Liam inhaled, trying to steady himself. There's more, he said quietly. I'm scared Dad will think I'm broken. Ella shook her head firmly, but still lovingly. You are not broken. You're hurting, yes. You're overwhelmed, yes. But broken? Never. Liam's shoulders shook as he absorbed those words. A long silence followed. A soft, fragile silence. The kind that appears right before someone reveals the deepest part of their truth. When Liam finally spoke, his voice was trembling but sure. Aunt Ella. I think I need help. Real help. The kind I've been too afraid to ask for. Ella felt her breath catch, not out of fear, but out of relief. Because he was finally opening the door he had kept shut for too long. You're not alone, she whispered. And asking for help is one of the bravest things you can do. Liam nodded slowly, tears falling freely now. I was scared you'd see me differently, he said. That if I told you how I really felt, you wouldn't think of me the same way. Ella gently touched his cheek, wiping away a tear. There is nothing you could tell me that would make me love you any less. Liam's breath hitched as he let those words settle inside him, words he desperately needed. But before Ella could say anything more, a sudden, sharp knock echoed through the quiet house. A knock that wasn't soft, or hesitant, or fragile. A knock that carried urgency. A knock that made both Ella and Liam lift their heads. Liam's eyes widened with fear. Aunt Ella, that might be Dad. Ella stood slowly, her heart steady, her voice gentle. Then we'll face him together. She walked toward the door as the knocking grew louder. And when she reached for the handle, she had no idea what waited on the other side. The knocking stopped the second she touched the handle. For a moment, there was only silence on the other side. Liam stood behind her, clutching the blanket, his face pale with worry. His breath trembled softly, like each inhale carried a question he wasn't ready to ask. Ella opened the door gently, and there stood Daniel. He looked nothing like the stern, frustrated father Liam had described earlier. His face was pale, eyes red, expression shaken. He looked like a man who had spent the past hour searching corners of the world he feared he might never reach. His voice came out rough and tired. Ella, is he here? Ella stepped slightly aside. Yes, he's here. He's safe. Daniel exhaled a long, shaky breath, a sound that carried both relief and regret. When his eyes found Liam, something inside him crumbled. His shoulders sagged, and his expression softened into something wounded and worried. Liam, he whispered, I thought I lost you. Liam didn't speak. His fingers tightened around the blanket, and his eyes darted toward the floor. Ella glanced between them, then stepped back to give them space, close enough to support Liam, but letting them face what needed to be spoken. Daniel stepped inside slowly, carefully, like he was afraid a sudden move might make everything shatter. Liam, he said again, voice breaking, I'm so sorry. Liam swallowed hard, but didn't lift his head. Daniel took another cautious step forward. I shouldn't have raised my voice, he said quietly. I shouldn't have said what I said. I was tired. I was stressed. But none of that excuses hurting you. Liam's chin trembled. You said I disappointed you, he whispered. Daniel closed his eyes, the words hitting him with full force. I know, he said softly. And I regret it more than anything I've said in years. Ella watched Daniel's expression carefully. This was not anger. This was fear. Fear of losing the person he loved most. Daniel knelt down slowly so he was eye level with his son. Listen to me, he said gently. You could never disappoint me by being honest. You could never disappoint me by feeling overwhelmed. You could never disappoint me by being who you are. Liam's breath wavered. But I'm not like everyone else, he whispered. I'm not strong like you. Daniel shook his head immediately. You're stronger, he said, voice thick with emotion. You carry feelings so deep most people never even touch them. You care in a way that takes real courage. I didn't understand that before, and that's my failure, not yours. Liam's eyes finally lifted, shining with tears. But I get scared, he said. All the time. I feel like I'm drowning in my own head. Daniel's face softened even more. That doesn't make you weak, he whispered. That means you need help and support. And I'm here for that. I want to be here for that. Ella felt warmth gather in her chest as the moment unfolded. Liam took a shaky breath. Dad. I didn't tell you everything. Daniel nodded gently. You can tell me anything. I promise I'll listen this time. Liam wiped his face, trying to steady his voice. I'm overwhelmed. I get anxious. I freeze in front of people. And I try to hide it because I thought you wouldn't understand. Daniel's eyes glistened. I didn't understand before, he admitted. But I'm learning. And I want to learn. I want to be the kind of father who listens. Who doesn't make you feel like you have to pretend to be someone else. Liam looked as if a weight inside him loosened, slowly, carefully. And you're not broken, Daniel added softly. You feel deeply. That's what makes you you. And I'm proud of you for that. Proud that you came here. Proud that you're speaking your truth. Liam's lips trembled. I thought you wouldn't accept me, he whispered. Daniel shook his head, his voice firm but tender. I accept you. Every part of you. The quiet parts. The gentle parts. The sensitive parts. All of it. Then, with visible emotion, he added. And I'm sorry I didn't show that sooner. A tear slipped down Liam's cheek. And for the first time that night, he stepped forward and fell into his father's arms. Daniel wrapped him tightly, holding him with the kind of grip that says, I will not lose you again. Ella watched quietly, her heart softening as father and son held on to each other. After a long moment, Daniel pulled back just enough to look at him. We're going to figure this out together, he said. If you need help, we'll get it. If you need someone to talk to, I'll listen. And if you ever feel overwhelmed again, you come to me. Or to Aunt Ella. You don't have to face anything alone. Liam nodded, tears falling freely, but his shoulders looked lighter, his breathing steadier. Ella stepped forward, placing her hand gently on his shoulder. You're surrounded by people who love you, she said. Don't forget that. Liam managed a small, trembling smile. Daniel stood, still holding his son close. Are you ready to come home? He asked softly. Liam glanced at Ella, who gave him a warm nod. I am, he whispered. Before they left, Liam hugged her tightly, gripping her like someone who had learned he wasn't alone after all. Thank you, he whispered. For listening. For being here. Ella hugged him back gently. Always, she said. You're never alone, Liam. Daniel placed a grateful hand on Ella's arm. Thank you, he said quietly. For saving my boy tonight. Ella shook her head softly. He saved himself, she replied. He just needed someone to hear him. Father and son walked out together into the calm night, closer, lighter, and finally honest with each other. And as Ella watched them leave, she felt a quiet warmth settle inside her. Because sometimes the hardest nights become the ones that mend what's been broken for far too long.